Welcome to Monkey Chatter. Before we get started, we have to say that while we think we are really smart, we definitely are not doctors, and you should not be taking our advice as medical advice. Everything we say on this show is based on personal experiences, and any guests we have on are not on to help diagnose or treat or cure any disease. Please reach out to your doctor if you have specific medical questions. And now that we're done with kind of the legalese of the show, we want to get on with the fun stuff. So carry on. Let's get down to Monkey Chatter.
Welcome back to Monkey Chatter. We're on episode 6. I'm Amy. I'm here with Lara and Michelle. And we are going to talk a little bit about morning routine on this episode. Whether you have one, don't have one, what works, what doesn't work, if you love it, hate it, don't really care. All of that fun stuff. And if you've been listening to a couple of our past episodes, well, we only have a couple of episodes, but if you've listened to us in the past, you'll find out that we are very different people. We get along swimmingly, but are very different people swimmingly. You guys like that?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And but we are very different. So it'll be interesting to see how this conversation goes today. And maybe you can relate to one of us, because I think we're probably at all ends of the spectrum on this. So, yeah, so I'm going to play Curious Monkey again on this episode. I'm going to take Michelle's place.
We're switching roles.
Yeah. And see, so what do you guys do? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? What do you love? What do you hate? What do you
do? Okay, Curious Monkey. So I can definitely tell you I'm not taking your role as the fitness monkey in the morning. That will not be me exercising in the morning.
Same.
So, the morning routine thing. So I have kind of a love-hate relationship. Like, I get it. Like, I get that, having some structure in the morning can really start the day off well. And so I'm a true believer and not a great practitioner. So what tends to happen to me, and this is not just with my morning routine, this is like sort of life. So more there to dig into, probably for a therapy session or something. But I tend to end up with these big to-do lists of things I don't really want to do. And when we were talking about the morning routine thing, and I started to look at that, I'm like, oh, there are things in my morning routine I really don't want to do. This is not super fun for me. So I don't know. Have you guys run across, and I had this in my Audible playlist, so I've already listened to this book once, so it's pretty funny. Have you guys run across I think it's Hal Elrod, and he has this thing called The Miracle Morning, and it truly is all about your morning routine. And, it's another example of when I read or listen to the book and then promptly don't do any of the things that I do.
And I am putting yet another book on my list that
I know, that's what I was like,
actually read.
I haven't heard of that. I have to add that.
So there are some really good things in there and one of the things that annoy me the most about when I start listening to people with their morning routines is, seriously, if I did all the things that you're supposed to do in the morning, like, it would be lunchtime by the time I got done, right? Like, I'm like, okay, because somewhere in there you have to sort of eat breakfast, manage to get yourself dressed and out the door. And if you have kids, God knows, I have no idea how you're doing a morning routine of any kind other than survival mode. So that's a really long answer to your curious question, Amy. But yes, I have a morning routine, and I don't like parts of it. And this topic caused me to revisit this whole miracle morning thing. And so I'm going to try and do that because I think it might help.
Hmm. I've never heard of that book. I'm gonna have to, and I'm all about, like, I know I'm a nerd, all about like the little morning routine.
Right? I
That
was
is
like,
my time of day.
yeah, so I know, anyway, so the one thing, so there are things that I do that are good, like it's not all. I am one of those folks who I do wake up without an alarm.
You
So
don't wake up and choose violence right away. Like,
I do wake up and I'm like, okay. And I'm not one of those folks who hits a snooze button. Like that's not my inclination. I'm kind of like, all right, just get up and do the things, right? But there are a few things in my routine that I don't particularly love. And then, but my favorite thing, the one good thing that I do manage to get in is 20 minutes of reading of something I actually want to read. So, and I do that while I'm sitting in front of my sad light. So
I
it's
love
a
it.
little habit stacking, right? So I get my vitamin D and my, sunshine and read something that I like to read. Yeah.
so for anybody who may not know what a sad light is, because it sounds kind of
Sad.
sad. Yeah. Maybe explain what a sad light is.
For
So,
some of us, folks who live in the Northeast or where it's dark in the morning or dark most of the day now. Um, I think it's what seasonal something
seasonal
disorder.
affective disorder, I think it stands for.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I definitely suffer from that. This time of year and the time change and it's cold and dark and it makes me sad. I sit in front of my little sad light. It's supposed to help with your mood and those things, but 20 minutes is about all I can take before I start to get a sunburn. So I do 20 minutes, set my timer, do 20 minutes.
Wait, for real? It will
For
burn?
real, yeah, it
Like, it will
does.
give you oh, so it's like a for real light,
Oh, yeah,
like a
it's like,
tanning bed.
I
well,
don't know if it's supposed to do that.
I was like, I didn't
I
realize they
mean,
did that.
yeah,
I'm
they can do that. Yeah,
Oh,
oh,
apparently.
that's
But,
weird.
yeah,
I
and I
don't
think
know. I've never
probably
heard
too.
that.
Yeah, and I think probably too some if you're on certain medications too, you're more prone to those UV lights or whatever.
I
yeah,
do
So
know you're
that makes
not
sense.
supposed to use them if you have macular degeneration.
that is a true thing. Yeah,
Hmm,
yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Um,
so
interesting.
yeah, so there you go. Moving on. Somebody else talk about their morning routine. That's enough of that.
I don't know, yours is so entertaining.
Thanks.
well, I love that you admittedly said like there are some things that are routine for you, but you don't love them because that. I mean, I feel like we probably all have a few things that we have to do in the morning that we may or may not want to do. Like get dressed and leave the house. I hate
There is that, right?
that. Now, once I get to my place of business, I'm happy to be there. It's just getting out of the door. Um, I I actually do have a pretty like set routine, but I will say I shouldn't it's set, but there's a lot of flexibility within it. So there's like several things that I do pretty routinely that I can kind of interchange or interchangeable. Um, and guess what? Mine also includes a sad lamp in the winter. I
Yeah,
don't know that I've never really been formally diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder, but I had noticed over the years that in the winter, when the days are super short and when you wake up, it's dark, and when you get home, it's dark, I just didn't have motivation. I had a hard time getting up in the morning. There were just other signs and symptoms. So I started using one maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, and I can't tell you have a huge difference for me in the winter. It's getting to the point now where it's maybe not, I don't need it as much, or I'm like you, I'm like 20 minutes is enough. And then mine also has this thing, it's an ion generator, a negative ion generator, which is supposed to, one, help cleanse the air, but two, negative ions are what you get when you hike outdoor, or if you're at the ocean. So it's present in the atmosphere. It's present when water is crashing on the beach or in a waterfall, that kind of thing. Anyways, negative ions are supposed to help you feel positive. So they're like mood boosters. So that mine has that little feature, which I like. But I feel like a morning routine, this is just my personal opinion, is that it should be a little bit of me time, because it might be the only me time you get the whole day. And it could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour, but like I have recently added lemon water into this morning routine just because I've been working with an herbalist and she suggested that I start that even before my coffee. And so I do my warm lemon water and then I have a cup of coffee. And in the time it takes me to drink those two things, I try to do some of the New York Times puzzles because I feel like that just gets my brain working in the morning. And we have this family text thread where we share our results and compete. So my competitive nature is fed. Yeah. And then so literally I get up without an alarm like you, Michelle, which feels really good. That's something I've strived for years and just recently have been able to do. And I have that little downtime. I have to have it. Like I really miss it if I don't get it. And it's literally just my coffee time, my Wordle time. Occasionally, and this is where the flexibility comes in. Sometimes I'll listen to a meditation in the morning, like a recorded one. Sometimes I'll sit on the floor and do some yoga stretches. That's just like whatever strikes me on the day. And then I kind of can start my day. I feel like if I get that stuff done, then I can start my day. And then you got to do the things you got to do, answer emails and, do the marketing stuff that I need to do. And then I always walk my last kind of morning thing before I leave the house is to try to walk the dog. And I'm trying really hard. And this was actually something that Michelle and I discussed many years ago. And you encouraged me to get out no matter what, because I was struggling with getting out of the house. It was probably during 2020, which didn't help. And it was winter and it was like cold and yucky. And I was like, you know what? You suggested I buy the dog a cute raincoat. And I did. And then I started walking in the rain and the cold and all the weather. So, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember you guys talking about that.
Yes. And it was like, now I'm really conscious of I really need to get that. Even if it's a 5-minute walk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some days, I'll be honest, if it's below 20, I'm sorry. We can skip a day. I'm just not a cold weather person. But yeah, I try to do that little tiny routine every day, or I just don't quite feel ready for the day. I don't know. Now, that being said, I know that there are benefits to it too, because I actually did some research and I was like, okay, is it really that important? Because I'm not a morning person. But there are some things that I found that it helps your productivity if you stick to a little bit of a routine, because it gives your brain time to focus and wake up and kind of rev up, I guess, for the day. It gives you the self-care, the me time, if you want that. And it can give you time to, this was the biggest one for me. The biggest one for me was it gives you time to reflect on the kind of day you want to have. Mm-hmm. So if you're getting up, jumping in the shower, rushing down the coffee, running out the door, you've never given yourself not even 5 minutes to say okay, how do I want this day to unfold? And that doesn't mean all the taskies. It's not that. It's supposed to be, this is the kind of day I want to have. I want to have a joyful day, or I want to treat, somebody to a special feeling when they walk in the door, or, I want to accomplish something physically, or I want to educate somebody. I don't know. There's who knows? It's more of a feeling than a to-do. So that's the other thing. I try to remember that every day. Yeah. And then there's also the whole thing of I think people can do this the night before too, with that setting an intention for the next day. And that kind of helps your morning routine get a little jump start. I think.
Yeah.
All right, Amy, what about
Your
you?
turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am definitely probably the most morning of the three of us. But then like
Definitely definitely probably.
I'm like,
No. Take
absolutely
that back.
are.
yeah.
Absolutely positively.
But then like 8 o'clock, like don't ask me to do anything after 8 o'clock. Like don't ask me to leave my house after 7 because
You mean 8 p.m.
yeah, like at
Right.
night. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's be
Don't
clear.
yeah, 8 p.m. Yeah, don't
7
ask
p.m.
me to do that because that's just I actually have a call tomorrow night at 7 and I was like, it doesn't start until 7 o'clock. Like even if we're on there for an hour. But yeah, so I am, and Lara, I think I hadn't really thought of it before now, but when you were talking about like that's the little me time. So I I definitely do the gym. So I get up about 4 every morning and I'm at the gym at like 4:30. And then I too have like while I have like a routine and things that I get done in the morning, it does kind of depend on the day and what's going on. Like and so like if I'm depending like I kind of plan my week out ahead of time. Like I use Sunday afternoon, evening to kind of plan stuff out as far as like gym stuff, running stuff, the dogs, studying, all that stuff. So it does kind of depend on the day, but I always kind of at least get to the gym and run and whatever. So, but going back to that, like me time, like I guess I hadn't really thought of it before then, but most people aren't up at that hour. So like my phone, like no one is asking for anything or no one needs anything. And the other thing is just based on where we live, we're like the traffic. If I go out during the day in traffic, I'm like, oh my gosh, where did all these people come from? Whereas like in the morning, because then I'm back home by usually between 6 and 6:15. And well, depending if I run after or whatever, but at the
In the
latest
morning.
7. Yeah, in the morning.
Let's clarify. So just so you all know, Amy gets more blank done between the hours of 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. than most of us probably get done in half a day.
Yeah, but again, from 8, I'm sure you guys get way more done between 8 and 10 p.m. And I'm like, peace out.
Peace out.
You have to listen to episode 5 for the peace out.
I do love that about you, and for people listening, Amy is probably by far the most like organized, and maybe I could even say motivated out of all three of us. In my opinion, you are. Yeah,
I've just built
Michelle,
a habit. I think I've just built a habit over so many years that I read this quote. It's like, I have to get up and work out in the morning before my brain realizes what I'm doing to my body. Like that is definitely my thing. And like, don't ask me to run or go to the gym or whatever at night. One, there's a bazillion people at the gym at night. And yeah, I just don't function well at night. Like if it doesn't happen before 8 o'clock in the morning, like it's not going to happen. I lied. Sometimes I will run at lunchtime depending on the time of year and stuff. But
do you think,
yeah.
I'm going to be the curious monkey this time.
Oh, go. I'm curious.
It's my turn. I'm curious. So do you think that this habit that you've created, this really strong habit, do you think that in essence does kind of enhance the motivation to go out and do the things that, I mean, yeah, you need to do, but you also want to do them. I mean, do you think it helps with the motivation?
So I think for me, and that's what I was going to say, like, please don't think for any minute that I wake up every morning like, sunshine and rainbows. Like, yeah, you can't wait to like go out, especially this time of year, when, it's dark year round when I wake up. So it doesn't matter what time. or what time of year it is, but it's cold now too. So you add like dark and cold in. So there are plenty of mornings that I lay there like thinking, oh, I really don't want to get up. Like, but I think for me, I know I know how much worse I feel if I were just to lay there and either go back to sleep, or I probably won't even go back to sleep because I'm used to getting up, but just lay there and like stay in bed because I don't feel like getting out. I feel so much worse. So I think knowing that, like knowing the feeling that I have after I work out way overrides the negative feeling of like if I were just to lay there.
So really, like, it's the pleasure pain thing, right?
Yeah.
So you get, ooh,
I'm not sure what that was.
That was something caused by the cat.
oh,
I believe he
cat.
pushed something off the desk with his little furry paws.
My favorite thing about cats. They're like, I'm just gonna flick that off for you. You don't need that. Let me take care of that.
Oops.
That's in the
Lots
way.
of jingle.
That would look so much better on the floor.
Oh my gosh. That was
This
funny.
is real life. This is real life, everybody.
Yeah.
Cats.
This is not edited.
Funny.
But yeah, the pleasure pain thing, right? So everything, and again, I always forget like where I collect these things, but it all comes down really to pleasure pain, right? Is it giving you more pleasure to do it than pain not to, or more pain to do it?
That sounds like your cat is
He's
having a
leaving
frat
now.
party.
He's leaving now. I'm so sorry. I would lock him out, but I think the noise might be worse.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
I like that line of questioning. Because I think I get what you're saying. Like it's the benefits outweigh the difficulty of forcing yourself to get up and get out and do it. And then, like you said, you feel so much better when you do it. And I think that's probably, I mean, at a lesser degree, that's probably why we all get out of bed in the morning, right? Like, I'm not getting up and running and getting up at the crack of dawn, or shall I say the butt crack of dawn. But I do get up with much more interest, or, than I used to. And I think it's because I've kind of like developed little habits that make my morning happy.
Mm-hmm. And I think the one thing that is a huge help for me, and this might sound really silly, but like my morning routine definitely starts the night before. Like if nerd alert, but I actually like lay my clothes out on Sunday night, and I have this thing that hangs on the back of my bathroom door that has like, because I know what days I'm running and gym, or just running and then cycle, or like, I kind of have that planned out for the week. So I know what clothes. So it has like 5 compartments in it, and the clothes, like I have them all organized in like the little compartments for each day.
I'm so not surprised.
But like doing that
I love you.
is a huge help for me, because if I had to pick out clothes in the morning, I would never, because I would just lay there and think, oh, well, is this clean? Is that clean? Well, does that match? Well, is that going to be warm enough? Like,
you're creating ease for yourself, so it's easier to do it.
Removing a roadblock, basically. So that is one thing that's been super helpful for me is like I've laid my clothes out well, Michelle knows, whenever we used to travel together for work, like I've laid my clothes, like if we were in a hotel or whatever, like I would lay my clothes out the night before in the bathroom. But now that I'm not traveling as much, I have this little system for like the bathroom here at our house. And yeah, that's a huge help. Again, it's just it's one little like it's just one little less roadblock that's taken out of the way. Yeah, I don't know.
It makes a lot of sense. So I think I hear a lot of people that say they don't have time for a morning routine, like other than brushing their teeth, showering, running out the door crazy. And I think that's valid. Like, I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, they can't get up earlier and create that time, or they really do have such a packed morning. And I have this friend, I'm going to give her a shout out. It's Cheryl Wolverton, and she has a business called How to Make a Life. She's a life coach, and she also does a little podcast. And I remember I'm on her newsletter list, and I think she sent something out at some point, and it was about the power of 1 minute. And I thought about that for the morning routine, because really, it really only takes 1 minute sometimes to set the tone for the whole day. And some of her words were, in 1 minute, you can take a deep breath, you can roll your shoulders and neck, you can pause, notice, breathe, and stretch. You can get a glass of water and sit and be grateful. So basically, she has all these little, these are all things that you truly can do in 1 minute that can really change your view of the day. And the grateful thing, of course, we just talked about that, and how that could really change your whole day. So even if you don't have a morning routine, maybe you can just take 1 minute.
Yeah.
The power of 1 minute.
And I think this may have been in the book that we're reading for doing a little research on for an upcoming podcast on sleep. They were just talking about how, people in our society, like the early bird gets the worm, so it's always this kind of bias towards people who are more night owls. And I'm going to forget, maybe we can talk about this on the sleep one when we do it, but what percentage of people are classified as like, morning bird type people, what percentage of society is night owls, and then some people just kind of fall in the middle. And I do think that is very true. Like, people who go to bed late and wake up late get a bad rap and are considered lazy. And that's not always, I mean, certainly it can be the case, but that's not always the case. I mean, you can get up early and still be lazy.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think
so
people's like circadian rhythms are they're different. People have different rhythms, and there's a lot of different ways you can determine like your personality traits or your human design. There's all these different, and there's a lot of like, more like new agey kind of things or alternative views, but even astrology that basically says like, this is who you are, and you might not be a morning person, and it's okay. You're going to get as much done as somebody who gets up at 4 a.m. as long as you're honoring like your rhythms. And I've fought that for years, because I worked in the horse industry, and like everybody's a morning person in the horse industry.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to get up so early? The horses don't know what time it is. Like, they're probably like, why the heck are you coming in the barn at dark?
Like eyes are like blinky.
Yeah. But I swore up and down, like, I'm a morning person. I was going to make myself a morning person if it killed me.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, after I quit doing that, I kind of woke up and was like, I was in a business coaching class, and I was asked the question, like, what would your ideal morning, or how would your ideal day start? And I was like, yeah, it wouldn't be getting up before dark. That would not be my ideal start to the day.
And it's so funny because I like walk out every morning when I walk outside, like, because I drive to the gym, which is a whole other thing that sounds really funny, but it is pretty far away. But it would add a few hours to my day if I had to run there every morning. My old gym I could run to. It was only 2 miles away, but the new gym might be a little more challenging. But anyway, like, there is something about walking outside, and I do this like quite a lot actually. I will like walk outside, stand on the front porch, and like kind of look up and see stars and all that stuff, and you can kind of hear, and especially like in the spring and summer and stuff when they're actually birds, they're like gone somewhere warm now, but like just stand there and there's like nobody else out. Like, so that for me is like, that is like,
Yeah.
that is amazing to me.
See, that's funny because like that's first, like that gives you some joy, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Walk out there. And
And
for
I
me, I would be like, oh my God, everybody's asleep but me. I'm going back to bed.
and like I love watching like seeing the sunrise and stuff, like there, and just the way that our house sits, like I always can see the like the skyline and the sunrise and stuff when I get back here. Then at this time of year, when I get back here, the sun is like very, very vaguely, like you can see it. And now that the days are getting a little longer, and it's just cool. But yeah, there's still no noise of the humans.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And I do agree. Like there is something special about seeing a sunrise.
Truly.
And a lot of times, and I have the same situation from my bedroom. Actually, the sun sets right outside, or sorry, rises right like the window facing my bed, and so that helps me actually get up in the morning because when the light comes on or in, it just feels more natural to get up. But it's really nice when you just get up right before it pops over the horizon, and it has that real special quality. But that's not early this time of year. It's not super early in the morning.
And that is something else. You guys are talking about your sad lights. I actually quite a few years ago got one of the wake up lights, which is supposed to like emulate sunrise. And usually I'm awake before it actually turns on, just because I'm so used to getting up. But if you want to be more of a morning person, that I found it to be super helpful when I started getting up earlier and earlier.
You
It just
got me
comes.
one of those when you had visited me
Oh,
on a
yes.
trip. And
Yeah.
it was back when I was having trouble getting up and it was dark in the morning, and it was great. And I had to get up early then for work.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome thing. I love that thing.
Yeah. I don't know. It worked well for me for sure. Again, now I just kind of used to it. But there's just something about that, because it's more like and then you can set, like, at least the one I have, you can set like the birds to chirp or whatever, to make some sort of noise versus a of an alarm or something.
That is the worst. I mean, I'm so sorry if anybody listening has to have the, whatever noise that is on your alarm, because that is the worst way to wake up. Michelle, how do you wake up? Did you say you wake up naturally, or do you use an alarm?
Well, I don't use an alarm really at all. So I get up because Bill, my husband, wakes up super early. So I'll get the sort of first wake up around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then I do generally go back to sleep and then wake up again around 6:30. But yeah, so that he's an early guy. Left to my own devices, that is not I'm a slow starter in the morning. I kind of like to ease into my day. Yeah, Lara, you talking about your perfect day. When I did that coaching exercise years ago, that was my thing too. I was like, oh, I wake up naturally at like the sun is already up.
Yeah, like the sun is what makes you wake up.
Yeah.
Now, does anybody have like a really good natural internal clock? Because that's a whole thing too.
I probably do. Like when you're talking about like, oh, if you have to get up to go to the airport, like, does your body wake up? I am pretty good about that.
Me too, which is strange. I mean, I don't know how that happens because I'm not like
How
super
does
early
that
riser.
happen?
I
Right?
don't know, but I
What does
will say
happen?
I also wake up at the same time a lot every day naturally. But if I have to go to the airport super early, I will set an alarm because I'm afraid that I won't, but
Yeah.
I almost
Never
99% of the
use it.
time
Right.
will
Yeah.
wake up before the alarm goes off.
Yeah. Me
Mhm.
too. I don't know if you just don't, it would be interesting to see what kind of sleep you're getting on those days and whether it's just not quite as deep. So there's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's an interesting
Yeah,
question.
and I think we'll probably get into that the more we look into some of the sleep stuff for an
Yeah.
upcoming podcast. Is he talks about
Yeah.
that a little bit, and the book that we're talking about is the Matthew Walker Why We Sleep book, and then he has some podcasts and stuff too. But he talks a little bit about that whole like internal alarm type thing.
Yeah, so stay tuned. That's going to be a good future episode too. And I think sleep is sleep and mornings and getting up are
Yeah.
they're kind of fraught with a lot of expectations.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we were
Uh,
talking about getting up early and how, the culture really does, like, you can't, if you're not a morning person, it's a little better now, maybe with a lot more working from home and all of that and
Hmm.
hybrid stuff. But really, traditionally, like, you just didn't have a choice.
That's
Like,
true.
get your
mhm.
butt out of bed. Like, you got to go to work,
It's like Dolly Parton working 9 to 5.
Yeah, but now it's like 7:30 to 8 for a lot
Yeah,
of people,
yeah.
7:30 to 8 p.m.
And then you have a commute for a lot of folks. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so that's an interesting thing too. I wonder, we talk about how that morning routine impacts your productivity,
Hmm.
right? I wonder if there's a whole segment of the population who would actually be more productive if they could wake up and sort of work on their natural rhythms, right?
Mm,
What would that
I
look
would vote
like?
yes, that there's probably a
yeah.
lot of people who could be much more productive and happier.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And Michelle, you kind of alluded to this a little earlier, but like, if you did all the things that whoever they are, say that you should do in the morning, um,
You could
yeah,
just never
it's
leave your house. It
yeah, and it just makes it makes it miserable. So like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I always tell people like pick what works for you and do what makes you happy. Like I get up and I'm like literally up at 4, brush my teeth, put on deodorant, walk up, like put clothes on,
Thank
you
you.
Oh,
know,
that's good.
out the door by 4:15. I know Lara is like more of a like, kind of sit around, like sit and enjoy and meditate or, whatever, and is a more slow. So I think you really do have to do what works for you. Like it doesn't have to be I mean, just look at the three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how
It's
different.
yeah, it's all and I would say that we're all probably contributing members of society and are doing fine, but all very different
Different.
in how we function that way. So I think,
Yeah.
you need to find what works for you. And then like the other thing that I was just thinking when you were talking about that, like if you do everything that they say you should do, the one thing that I find helpful too is trying to, we talk about habit stacking and like kind of putting stuff together. So, one of the things that I do, again, depending on time of year, is I'll either take the dogs for a walk in the morning or at lunchtime, depending, when it's colder. I will go run in the cold, but God forbid, like they go out in their little be cold. So then I'll walk them at lunchtime, more during the winter. But anyway, so I will take them out in the mornings, and that like lets me then get sun too.
Hmm.
I talked about having a certain amount of sun in the morning. It helps, again, that whole circadian rhythm and all of that, just getting natural sunlight in the morning. So I think
That's
if
the
you can,
theory with the sad lamp. That's the exact
yeah.
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
like trying to kind of kill two birds with one stone, I guess, if you
Yeah.
will.
Hmm.
And trying to figure out, are there things that you can kind of piggyback on each other so that it doesn't feel like The tasky list.
Listen.
Listen to episode 5 on gratitude if you want the background on the tasky list.
Definition of tasky.
Yeah.
Taskies.
But yeah. So I think doing that.
Yeah.
But again, I really do think that, and just like with anything, you have to do what works for you and in your world.
I
Yeah.
guess that's the bottom line, right? Do
Mhm.
you feel better or worse?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're not, and that's sort of where I got to with I'm like, okay, this isn't making me feel better. Like the
Mhm.
whole goal of this thing is to sort of quote unquote improve the situation. I'm like, that's not happening. So, at a certain point you need to stop and change it up if it's not working for you, right?
Yeah.
To the best of your ability.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I
I
love
think
the idea of change. Like you can start out one way and change, and maybe
Mhm.
throughout your life you might be a morning person for
yes.
a while, and then you might not.
Yeah. And I think I was actually just going to say something exactly like that, Lara. Like, I think it depends on the period of your life that you're in too. Like, Lara, I know you were talking earlier about, working in the horse industry and it was this way, or like, I'm sure when your kids were smaller, like your morning routine was different because it revolved around them. And so you had to, alter your plans to take care of the munchkins.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole another thing. Like I
Yeah.
do have a lot of empathy for parents with young kids that they're having to get themselves and their kids out the door at the same time. That can be difficult. And I was pretty lucky to have a flexible job during those times. But I remember a short time when, it was like my daughter would be like waking me up going, it's getting late. Are you going to get up and take me to school? Oh yeah, I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think there's a black and white, like, this has to be your morning routine if you want to be productive, You have to do what works for you and what period of your life that you're in and what works for the rest of your family and stuff too. So,
Yeah, so true.
yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
Sounds like
well,
a good place to wrap up tonight.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's
yeah.
good.
Thank you for
So,
listening, as always. And yeah, if you have a different take or just want to agree with us,
Or share
let us
or
know.
disagree.
We love feedback. Send us
or
any
share what
feedback.
you love about your morning routine. Like maybe it's something I'll like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what works for you?
Yeah.
Little tips and tricks. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
share it on our social too.
Yeah, that'd be
So,
great.
yeah. All right. Well, on that note, we are recording this relatively late in the evening for my life.
Amy's ready for bed.
So I'm going to say peace out.
Peace out, all.
Yeah. Have an amazing day, and don't let anybody tell you what your morning routine should be.
Love it.
Okay. See
Bye.
ya.